Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Janyaṁ Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Ashtatara Sadhushamachala Abhay Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Śrīla Prabhupada ki ISKCON Pratishtat Acharya Śrīla Prabhupada ki Ananta Kori Vaishnava Vrinda ki Shamaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Navadip Mayapur Dham ki Srila Shrivash Thakurer Shubha Tirubhav Titi Mahamahotsav ki Jai Shri Nitai Gauda Shitanata Pramanande Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Shagarajatam Shahagana Vitam Tang Shajivam Shadaitam Shadadutam Parijana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Patan Shahagana Lalita Shivishagam Vidangscha Mantra Guru Ajata Shika Guru Gantha Charane Yagi Kori Abandon Om Agyana Timiranda Shagananjana Shavakaya Chakshushan Militam Yena Chashma Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shamate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tenamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaudavani Pracharyane Nirvishesha Shunnavari Paschata Desha Tarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 9, Passing away Bhishmadev, text number 31. Vishuddhayā dhāraṇayā hatāśubhaḥ tad-īkṣayaivāśu gatā-yudha-śramaḥ nivṛtta-sarvendriya-vṛtti-vibhramas tuṣṭāva janyaṁ visṛjañ janārdanam viśuddhayā dhāraṇayā hata-aśubhaḥ tad-īkṣayaivāśu tad-īkṣayaivāśu gatā-yudha-śramaḥ nivṛtta-sarvendriya-vṛtti-vibhramas tuṣṭāva janyaṁ visṛjañ janārdanam. Please chant. Matrimandali, viśuddhayā, by purified, dhāraṇayā, meditation, hata-aśubhaḥ, one who has minimized the inauspicious qualities of material existence. Tat, him, īkṣayā, by looking on, eva, simply, āśu, immediately, gala, having gone away, juddha, from the arrows, śramaḥ, fatigue, nivṛtta, being stopped, sarva, all, indriya, senses, vritti, activities, vibhramaḥ, being widely engaged, tuṣṭāva, he prayed, janyaṁ, the material tabernacle, visṛjan, while quitting, janārdanam, the controller of the living beings. Translation and purport by Śrīla Prabhupada. Śrīla Prabhupada Ki. By pure meditation, looking at Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, he at once was freed from all material inauspiciousness and was relieved of all bodily pains caused by the arrow wounds. Thus, all the external activities of his senses at once stopped, and he prayed transcendentally to the controller of all living beings while quitting his material body. But the material body is a gift of the material energy, technically called illusion. Identification with the material body is due to forgetfulness of our eternal relationship with the Lord. For a pure devotee of the Lord, like Bhishmadev, this illusion was at once removed as soon as the Lord arrived. Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa is like the sun, and the illusory energy, external material energy, is like darkness. In the presence of the sun, there is no possibility that darkness can stand. Therefore, just on the arrival of Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, all material contamination was completely removed, and Bhishmadev was thus able to be transcendentally situated by stopping the activities of the impure senses in collaboration with matter. The soul is originally pure, and so also the senses. By material contamination, the senses assume the role of imperfection and impurity. By revival of contact with the Supreme Pure, in capital letters, Supreme Pure, Lord Krishna, the senses again become freed from material contamination. Bhishmadev attained all these transcendental conditions prior to his leaving the material body because of the Lord's presence. The Lord is the controller and benefactor of all living beings. That is the verdict of all Vedas. He is the supreme entity and living entity amongst all the eternal living beings. Nityanam, nitto nityanam, chaitanas chaitananam, eko bahunam jo vidhati kamam, katha Upanishad. And he alone provides all the necessities for all kinds of living beings. Thus, he provided all facilities to fulfill the transcendental desires of his great devotee Bhishma Dev, who prayed as follows. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He provided all facilities to fulfill the transcendental desires of his great devotee Bhishma Dev. And today is the auspicious disappearance day of Srila Srivas Thakur, Srila Srivas Pandit, and we're going to hear his glories. In the Mukam Karade Bacha Lampangam Langaite Girim Jat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Ninatarinam Bancha Kalpatrubi Eshtakravasham Nabevacha Pojitanam Pavaneba Boishnabebo Namo Namaha. In the Gauda Ganadesh Dipika, it mentions that Srivas Thakur is an incarnation of Sri Narad Muni, and Srivas Thakur's brother Sri Ram Pandit. He's incarnate. He appears on several occasions in the transcendental Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Ram Pandit. He's an incarnation of Parvat Muni. And Narad Muni and Parvat Muni were very close associates. And they appeared. Gaudangera Shangi Gone, Nitashidha Korimone. As Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings, the Gaudangera Shangi Gon, the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nitashidha. They're all eternal associates of the Lord, who were associating with him when he appeared and performed his pastimes in Brajabhumi. Brajendra Nandan Jai Shachishuta Hoiloshe. He became that darling of King of Braja. He became the beloved of Sachimata, Balarama Hoilo Nitai. And so many of the Lord's associates also appeared with him in his to serve him in his Navadip Leela. And what service, what exalted service Srivas Thakur performed for the satisfaction of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Now in the Srivas Thakur, he appeared in East Bengal, Purba Bengal, Srihata district, that's Bangladesh, Srihata district, along with many of the Lord's associates like Srila Advaita Acharya and Mahaprabhu, Sivananda Shain Mahaprabhu. His ancestral home was from that area, Srihata. Nilambar Chakrabarti Thakur, Sachimata's ancestral home, Jagannath Mistra's ancestral, all that area, north, east Bengal, Srihata. So Srivas Thakur was from that area, as was Advaita Acharya. Navadipe Chartodike, Navadipe Navadipe Chartodike Hoite Lok Jai, Navadipe Porle Shei Bidarash Pai. Vrindavan Thakur, he explains that from all over India, Navadip Chartodik Hoite, Lok Navadipe Asha, that they came to Navadip because Navadipe Porile She Bidarash Pai. In Navadip, if you study, you get a taste for learning. So many of the Brahmins, the Bipragan, Sajan Shamaj from Bengal, they came to Navadip. Many examples are there. Advaita Acharya and Srivas Thakur and Jagannath Mishra, and they all came to this area, Navadip, Mayapur, and resided here. And at that time, Navadipe Shampoti Kei Boni Bare Pare. Who can describe the glories of Navadip? Ek Ganga Ghate Loka Lok Shnan Kore. Just try to understand the opulence of Navadip Dham at the time of Mahaprabhu's appearance. Srila Vrindavan Thakur explains that in one Ganga Ghat, Ek Ganga Ghate, Loka Lok Shnan Kore, 100,000 people bathe. 100,000 in one Ghat. Maybe on a big day we get 200 or 300. At Gaur-Purnima, maybe 200 or 300, you'll say 500 maybe. And usually 50 devotees, maximum 100. Ek Ganga Ghate, Loka Lok Shnan Kore. according to Sri Vrindavan Thakur, 100,000 people were bathing in each ghat. And there were many, many ghats. And the Brahmins, the sannyasis, the Vaishnavas, the tapashvis, the punya karmis, the karmakandi, the householders, they were all going and bathing in the ghat. And there was the activity of the Navadip Brahmins was study, scholarship, discussion. Gangadas Pandit, Vyakaran Shastrer Ekanta Tattavit, completely learned in the Vyakaran Shastre, the grammar, Sanskrit grammar. So Srivas Pandit, he was also a scholar. Pandit, Gadadhar Das Pandit, Mahaprabhu's intimate associates, they're all learned scholars. And Nimai Pandit, he was Dvijamani, the crest jewel of the Navadip Brahmins. And Srivas Thakur, he was 30 years older than Nimai. So at the time that Nimai was performing the Bal Lila, his childhood pastimes, and the Vidya Lila, his study pastimes, by that time Srivas Thakur was already a very senior member of the Society of Brahmins in Navadip. Indicative of that, there was a few incidences like described. Vrindavan Thakur describes it. Sachinandan, he would ridicule, he would play jokes on the Vaishnavas, he would ridicule them. And the Vaishnavas would be coming on the road, and they would see Mahaprabhu, and they would go the other direction. Mahaprabhu would say, just see, the Vaishnavas are coming, they saw me, and they're going another direction. Why is that? He asked his students. And they said, maybe they just thought immediately of some important, urgent matter, and they went to do it. Mahaprabhu said, no. And because I'm only discussing Vyakaran, Alankar, and grammar, they do not like to associate with me. They only like to talk about Krishna and his glories and his pastimes. So Mahaprabhu, in this way, he's jokingly glorifying the devotees. And Srivas Thakur, he would chastise. Shashi Kumar, why are you wasting your time, all of this mundane learning? Just worship Śrī Kṛṣṇa. And Mahaprabhu said, if you're merciful upon me, then I can become a Vaishnava. So in this way, many years past, Mahaprabhu is performing Vidya Lila. He's not displaying his Prem Bhakti manifestation. He's just Vidya Lila, a scholarship, and enjoying in that way. Now, he, at the time of going to Gaya for performing the Shraddha of Jagannath Mishra, at that time also Mahaprabhu took advantage of that to begin his pastimes of the Sankirtan inauguration. So he went to Gaya Dham, and that he was overwhelmed by the influence of the Gaya Dham, where the lotus feet of Mayapur, Gaya, the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, who killed Mayapur, pushed him down to the earth. So those lotus feet are there. You can go and visit that temple. It's very beautiful. And they're very appreciative of ISKCON devotees, foreign devotees. You can do the Shraddha and everything. Nice place. So Mahaprabhu, he was overwhelmed at that time. He began to manifest his pastimes, his features, his qualities of displaying love of Godhead and performing Sankirtan. Kali Juge Jugadamri Name Prochatoti Lage Pita Bono Chaitanya Avatar. He assumed the golden form to propagate the Nam Sankirtan in Kali Yuga. So that pastime began when he went to Gaya Dham, and it was also initiated by Ishwarapuri. That's a wonderful story, which we can hear another time. But even at that time, he didn't want to return to Mayapur, Sachinanda. He actually began to journey to Vrindavan. And Akashvani, the voice in the sky, said, now you cannot go to Vrindavan, you have to go to Mayapur, return. So many things had to be done. Panchatattva had to be brought together, and so many leelas. Dinahinu joto chilo hariname udharilo ta shaki jogai ma'adhai. Jagai Madhai had to be delivered, and in this way the potency of the holy name had to be, the evidence had to be the most sinful. So many things had to be done in Mayapur. So Mahaprabhu, he returned to Mayapur, but he was a changed person. He was a changed person, and Sachimata was completely perplexed by his behavior. He would sometimes laugh loudly and cry and just fall down unconscious. He would speak to himself. Sometimes he would call out loudly, "I will break the head of the atheists." Sometimes he would run and climb a tree and climb right out to the extent of the branches, the little branches and the twigs, and then fall down and grind his teeth and make a grating noise. So these extraordinary symptoms, because he's trying to contain his overwhelming flames of Krishna prema, were perplexing to Mother Sachi, and she discussed it with everybody, with the vendors, with the neighbors. She discussed it. And they all gave advice. Some said that, "Oh, you have to give him coconut water." And others said, "Abodha Thakurani, you foolish daughter of a Brahmin, simply giving him coconut water will not do. You have to massage his head with sheep ghee. Sheep ghee, we don't even know what sheep ghee is now. And then give him a bath when these symptoms overwhelm him." And anyway, she was perplexed, so she decided to send to Srivas Thakur's home and request him to come and take a look. So just see, we can all understand that the respectable position that Srila Srivas Thakur was occupying in Navadip Dham. I mean, she wanted some conclusive consideration, and so she called, "Please, Srivas Thakur, you come." And now, when he arrived, he arrived in there's not much, there's not a great distance between Srivas Angan, the house of Srivas Thakur, and Shachi Angan. It's not far, 100 meters, 150 meters, 100 meters. It's very close. At that time, Ganga was also flowing. So they sent message to Srivas Thakur. He came. Now, when he came into the courtyard of Shachi Angan, just seeing him, Mahaprabhu was there, and he saw, just seeing Srivas Thakur, Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with feelings of love of Godhead, just seeing Srivas Thakur. Srivas Thakur came, and he came into the courtyard. He was circumambulating Tulasi Maharani. And seeing that, his devotee circumambulating Tulasi Devi, Mahaprabhu, he couldn't contain his ecstatic symptoms. Bhakta deki Prabhur, bodira bhakta bhab, Loma harsha asrupata kampa anurag. Bhakta deki, seeing his devotee, Srivas Thakur, Prabhu badailo bhakti bhav, overwhelmed with the feelings of love, seeing his devotee, seeing Srivas Thakur. Loma harsha, his hair standing on end, ashrupata, his horripilation of the body, kampa anurag, completely overwhelmed. He fell down unconscious. Mahaprabhu fell down unconscious. And Srivas Thakur was looking at this, looking at his symptoms. And Shachimata is there, this is what I'm dealing with every day, So then Mahaprabhu, he comes back to consciousness. And he sees Srivas Thakur, and he says, "Oh, it is you, Thakur. Then please tell me, what is this ailing me? Some are saying that I have a disturbed airs, and I need to be kept bound up all the time. What is your opinion?" And Srivas Thakur, he said that Mahabhakti jog deki tomar sharire Śrī Kṛṣṇa anugraha hoila tomare. Mahabhakti jog, I see tomar sharire, in your body, I see the Mahabhakti jog, the symptoms of great exalted devotion. Mahabhakti. Śrī Kṛṣṇa anugraha hoila tomare, you have received the ultimate mercy from Śrī Kṛṣṇa. These symptoms that you are experiencing, these are symptoms of inflamed love of Godhead. And I also want to get that condition from you. I want to get that. And Mahaprabhu, he was pleased, he was relieved. Actually, he was relieved that Srivas Thakur consoled him in that way, counseled him in that way. These devotees, they are like, he's Narad Muni and Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he forgets his Krishna. He forgets his Krishna. He's so much in love that with Krishna, he forgets his Krishna. And Srivas Thakur, he's Narad Muni, but he doesn't say, oh, you're Krishna, what can you expect, They don't think that. They don't think that. They forget. Mani mani chintai advaita mahashai prakrita manushta e balagnai. Mani mani chintai advaita mahashai. He's thinking over and over in his mind, Advaita Acharya. When he's seeing Nimai come and call Vishwarup for lunch and pulling on his dhoti, he sees this beautiful child, seeing his Paramashundar, his beautiful form. Mani mani chintai advaita mahashai. He's thinking over and over in prakrita manushta e balagnai. He's not a material person. Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu. And Sachinandan, he's Krishna, but they don't. They forget that. They forget that. So Mahaprabhu, he came back from Gaya and began displaying the symptoms of love of Godhead. And of course, the Shankirtan Andolan, the Shankirtan movement, he began. And he's chanting every night in the house of Srivas Thakur. Srivas Angan is such an important place. Actually, the 4 places Mahaprabhu was always present: Raga Bandhan, Sachirandan, Nityananda Nach, where Nityananda is dancing, where Sachimat is cooking, at the house of Raghava, and Srivas Angan. The 4 places Sachinandan is always present. So if you're feeling separation from Mahaprabhu, go to Sachiangan. He's present there, always guaranteed. The kirtan, the kirtan pastimes, the intimate associates. And those kirtan pastimes, they're extraordinary, and they're performed in the house of Srivas Thakur. And the materialists of Navadvip, they would complain, they would criticize the Sankirtan activities. They would say that we can't get a good night's sleep anymore. All night nocturnal kirtan. Sometimes, even now, we hear at night over the river some kirtan, the village kirtan. So all night they were doing kirtan, and then no one could sleep. What are they screaming and shouting? This Srivas Thakur and his brothers. The Lord will be enraged. The Lord will be awakened in his sleep. They give up jnana and vairagya, and they dance like madmen. And then they said that, this is another, just to understand the exalted environment of Navadvip Dham. Nowadays, the people, they criticize the devotees. They throw beer can at you in the West. They insult you. They say bad words. In those days, the materialistic people, they composed poetry criticizing the Vaishnavas. They composed poetry, and they criticized them. They've given up jnana and vairagya. So even the materialistic people are elevated in Navadvip Dham. They can criticize them. They've given up jnana and vairagya. Materialistic people nowadays, what do they know about jnana and vairagya? That's the low level in Navadvip. And then they made a complaint to the Nawab in Gaur. The Gaur, Ramkelly, Rupa and Sanatan were there. It's not far up Ganga. You can take a train, 6 hours. You go Malda. That was the capital of Bengal. And so the Nawab, they made complaint, and he sent boats. Actually, he sent boats to arrest anyone in Navadvip who was doing Sankirtan publicly. Of course, Navadvip was a big, such a well-known place that we're explaining. So it was a big issue for the government that the Sankirtan movement was growing and growing in Navadvip. So they sent two boats of soldiers to arrest and punish anyone doing Sankirtan. So the devotees were concerned. Srivas Thakur was concerned. He and Advaita Thakur, they were the senior members of the Vaishnava Sabha in Navadvip. So he was concerned. He felt responsibility for all of the Vaishnavas, and he was facilitating. He and his 4 brothers. It was a very large family. 4 brothers, all married, wives, children. It was a big center of Vaishnava Shanga, Srivas Thakur's house. And that's why it's so important to go and visit there, such a special place. And he was worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev. Worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev. That's interesting, isn't it? The worship of Lord Nrsimhadev in Mayapur for the protection of the devotees is very much present in our tradition. Srimad Thakur worshipping Lord Nrsimhadev in his temple there. So just see how ISKCON and our great devotees, great early pioneers of Mayapur, they're establishing these important components of the Mahaprabhu's movement, the worship of Lord Nrsimhadev. Srimad Thakur. So at that time, Mahaprabhu is thinking, the devotees are seeing him as the Bhakta Rupa, a great devotee. But he hasn't revealed himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he decides to do that at this time. And the boats are coming. And the first person he reveals himself to is Srivas Thakur. Of course, there were other revelations, younger. Like, for example, there's tad-īkṣayaivāśu Brahman, he came. And 3 times Sachinandan, he took his offering in, and then he revealed Ashtabhuj form, an 8 room. And he said, I've Shankirtana Rambe Hoilo Avatar, I've appeared to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. But they're different. They're like childhood. They're like Ballabha Prakatiyo Paschat Lukai. In his playful childhood pastimes, he displays his mystical powers as the Supreme Lord, like playing. But Paschat Lukai, in his Vidya Lela, he covers himself. So now is the first time that he really publicly reveals himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he does that to Srivas Thakur. Mahaprabhu is wandering on the bank of the Ganga and he sees the cows. Some are drinking, some are chewing grass, some are chewing the cud and taking the milk. And then he's overwhelmed with the Bab. Muishe, Muishe, he's calling out, I am he. And then from the banks of Ganga, he began running to the house of Srivas Thakur in this mood. And he got to the house of Srivas Thakur and he saw that Srivas Thakur was inside the house, inside the puja room, doing puja. Mahaprabhu began kicking on the door. Kaha puja koro. He calling out, Kaha puja koro, kaha dhyan. Jaha puja koro, deko biddaman. Who are you worshipping? Kicking on the door. Who are you worshipping? Kaha dhyan. Who are you meditating upon? Jaha puja korcho, deko biddaman. The one you are worshipping, look, he's present here. Srivas Thakur hearing the door, kicking, hearing the Lord screaming, yelling. He opens the door. Deki. Birashane boshi ache vishramba shankar chakra padma gada shankar da. What is that? Chaturbuj shankar chakra pada shankar chakra gada padma dha. Deki birashane boshi ache vishramba. Deki, he sees Vishramba. Birashane, sitting in the birashashan posture. And Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes, he's sitting in the lotus posture, one foot on the one thigh, another foot, and his right arm raised in the Jnana Mudra. That's called Birashana. He's sitting in the Birashana, and he displays Deki Birashani Boshyatche Vishramba, Chatur Bhuj Shankar Chakra Gada Padmadhar. He displays 4 arms with the symbols of Lord Narayan, Shankar Chakra Gada Padmadhar, holding those. Like to see that form of Vishramba in Jnana, in Virashan, with displaying the 4 arms of Lord Vishnu. Like to see that form? Yeah. I don't see the deity of that form, but we can see by hearing Vrindavan Thakur's description. So then Srivas Thakur, Mahaprabhu is displaying his opulence as the Supreme Lord, Sri Hari, Sri Gauda Narayan. And he says, worship me. He called Mahaprabhu, he's revealing this to Srivas Thakur to remove his fear. I've appeared to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement. Nothing can stop this Sankirtan. I'm personally appeared to inaugurate Sankirtan and bestow upon everybody, dino hino jota chilo, no matter how degraded they are, bestow upon them freely love of Godhead. And he says to Śrīvāśu Thakur, worship me. Worship me. Remove all of your anxiety. Worship me. Vishwambar charane amar namaskar nava graha varna pita barshan jahar. Śrīvāśu Thakur began to glorify Sri Satchidananda and beautiful prayers. Vishwambar charane amar namaskar, offering my obeisances to the lotus feet of Vishwambar. Navagan Varna, his form is bluish. Pita Barshan Jaha, and he's wearing a yellowish cloth. We'll hear some of the prayers that Śrīvāśu Thakur offered to Sri Satchidananda at that most glorious moment. Tumi Vishnu, Tumi Krishna, Tumi Jagyeshwar, Tomar Charan Dok Ganga Tirthabar. You are Lord Vishnu, you are Krishna, you are the master of all sacrifices. Toma Charan Dok Ganga Tirthabar. Ma Ganga, she emanates from your lotus feet. Janaki Jibon Tumi Nara Singha. You are the beloved son of Janak Maharaj, it's Lord Ramchandra. Tumi Nara Singha. Aj Bhav Adi Tava Charane Bringa. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, beginning with Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, Tava Charane Bringa, they are like bumblebees circling your lotus feet. Tumi She Vedanta Veda Tumi Narayan. You are the compiler of the Vedas, you are Narayan. Tumi She Cholila Bali Hoy Bamon avatar. Tumi Hayagriva, Tumi Jagat Jibon. Hayagriva, you are the soul of the universe. Tumi Nilachal Chandra Shabad Karan, you are Jagannath, the moon of Nilachal. You are the cause of all causes. So Mahaprabhu is very pleased to hear these prayers of Śrīvāśu Thakur. Actually, there's more prayers. We just shared with you a few, but more prayers. And he's also quoting from Srimad Bhagavatam. And then Mahaprabhu had ordered him to worship him. So Śrīvāśu Thakur, he gathered all of his family members and assistants, the gardeners, the maids, even his pet. They all, we're assuming all family members are the four brothers, Srinidhi, Sri Ram, Sripati, Sribhash. Four brothers and their families, they all. And this is the first time that Mahaprabhu is formally displaying his opulence as a Supreme Personality of God and inviting, encouraging the devotees to worship him in that mood, Aishwarya Gyan. And subsequently in the house of Śrīvāśu Thakur on many occasions Mahaprabhu revealed his divine opulences, Shat Paraha Bhav, for 21 hours, all in the house of Śrīvāśu Thakur. Gandha Pushpa Dhup Deep Puje Shri Charane. Gandha Pushpa Dhup Deep Puje Shri Charan Shastrika Hoy Bipra Karen Krandan. According to all of the injunctions of the scripture, the Brahman, Sribhash, Bipra, he worshipped the Sri Charan, the lotus feet of Gauranga Mahaprabhu with Gandha, that's chandan, pushpa, flowers, dhup, incense, deep, lamps. They worship the lotus feet of Sri Gaurachandra. Koren Krandan, whilst tears were pouring down his cheeks and drenching his clothes. That's how you do arati. And all of his family associates were there. And Mahaprabhu, he invited them all of those family residents, family members of Śrīvāśu Thakur, invited them close. He placed his lotus feet on their heads. Ki bolibo Shibashe udar charitra jahar charandoli shangshar povitra. How can I describe? Ki bolibo Shibashe udar charitra, the exalted character of Śrīvāśu Thakur. How can I describe that? Vrindavan Thakur is commenting. Jaha Charanduli, whose dust of his feet, Shangshar Pavitra, can purify the entire universe. Vrindavan Thakur comments that just as Nanda Dulal appeared in the prison house of Vasudev in Mathura, and his pastimes were performed in the house of Nanda Maharaj. His Braja Leela was performed in the house of Nanda Maharaj. So similarly, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in the house of Jagannath Mishra, and his pastimes were performed in the house of Srivas Thakur. Shribasha Koryala Shtuti Dekhiya Prakash Iha Jai Shune Shai Hoy Krishna Das. Anyone who hears these prayers that Srivas Thakur offered to Shachinandan and this description of his opulence and displaying of volumes, Iha Jai Shune, those who hear that, Shai Hoy Krishna Das, they become beloved of Krishna. Aha. Let's hear about this now from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Ek din Vipranam Gopal Chapal Pandit Pradhan Shey Dhurmukha Bachan. He was there was one Brahmin named Gopal Chapal. He was Pandit Pradhan. He was very learned, and he was Dhurmukha. He was very Prabhupada says Dhurmukha is he used very obnoxious language and very talkative. Dhurmukha Bachan. Bhavani puja shab shamigli lai ratre shivashe dware shtan lepai. Bhavani puja shab shamigri lai. All of the ingredients used for worshipping Mala Bhavani. Bhavani is the Ma Durga. Ratre shivashe dware shtan lepai. He placed them in front of the door of Srivas Thakur's house one night. So Prabhupada's commenting in his purport that he was very envious. The Smarta Brahmins, he's very learned. He says, this Gopal Chapal is Vipra, his Pushandi Prabhan. He was a Smarta Brahmin, and he was very envious of the respect. The envy is there because when such persons see a Vaishnava being respected, that's very painful for them. Why is he being given so much respect? Why aren't my qualities appreciated, and why aren't I respected? So the person becomes envious of that person who's the recipient of respect. There's envy. So therefore, his plan was to dishonor publicly Srivas Thakur so that he wouldn't be respected in this way. That's envy. So then, here's another example of what we were discussing about the environment in which Mahaprabhu appeared from his pastimes. This is the extent of their mischievous activities. Okay, we will, this is considered low class. Karma nishta, the person who's doing karma kanda, this is considered low class. I mean, it's not that all the abominable things that people do these days. No, he's doing Bhavani Puja at night, and therefore he's so fallen. Bhavani Puja. I mean, that's people do nowadays once a year, and they're considered very pious. Durga Puja. So just understand the elevated nature of the society. That was considered low class and a point of criticism. So in the morning, Srivas Thakur, he comes out, opens his door, he sees all this paraphernalia. Now it's very interesting to see his response. Just consider, how would you react? In the morning, you open your door and you see, the beer and the wine and meat and different things there. What would you do? Quick, get rid of it before anybody sees it. Yes, I think most of us would do that. So Śrīvas Thakur, he opens the door, he sees it. What does he do? He immediately, he calls all of the respected Brahmins. Nitya-ratre kori ami bhavani pujan amar mohima deko Brahman sajan. He calls the Brahmins. He says, look, every night, Nitya-ratre kori ami bhavani pujan. I worship Bhavani every night. Amar mohima deki. Look at my position. Amar mohima deki. Brahmaner sajan. Oh, respected Brahmins, just look at my position. This is very interesting that he does that. Reminds me of Shrapundarik Vidyanidhi Mahodai. Bishai Prai Tarpariched Shob Chinitena Parikeyo Teha Jai Vaishnav. He would present himself as a materialist. Bishai Prai Tarpariched Shob. Everyone thought he was a materialist. Long hair, well oiled, he had to carry a little mirror with him. Check his beauty. And the soft, the silk cushions and everything. Sometimes we're perplexed by that. He would do that because he was averse to being respected as a Vaishnava. Chinitena parikehu tiha jai Vaishnava, that he was such an exalted Vaishnava, because he found that respect and honor distasteful. So therefore he dressed like a materialist, so that people, we're the opposite. We dress up like Vaishnava to cruise in ISKCON. He was the opposite. So Śrīvas Thakur, it seems like that. He welcomed disrespect. He did not want to be respected. And the Brahmana Sajan, the assembly of Brahmins, immediately they felt embarrassed that this had happened. And of course they knew that Śrīvas Thakur is not doing this. And they called for a sweeper. Now, after 3 days, leprosy attacked that Brahmin. Blood oozed from sores all over his body, incessantly covered with germs that bit him. Unbearable pain. This is what happens if you try to publicly dishonor a very intimate associate of the Lord. This is the reaction that you get. He was in constant pain and suffering, and leprosy is infectious, so he was driven out of the town and gone to a remote place. He was on the bank of the Ganga one day. Mahaprabhu was there, and he saw Mahaprabhu. Log shab udharite tomar avatar mui bado duki mor koroho udhar. You have appeared. Log shab udharite tomar avatar. You have appeared to deliver all of the people. Muni boro duki. I am so much suffering. More koroho udhar. Please deliver me. So he goes out of his way. Mahaprabhu delivers Jagai Madha. Even he delivers us. We weren't even interested in spiritual life. He wants to deliver us. But if you offend a devotee like Śrīvas Thakur, you cannot get delivered. Mahaprabhu was angry. He was angry. Even he's doyamoy. He's tomar bina ke doyalu tomar jagata shangsha. There's no one as merciful as you. Tomar bina ke doyalu. Poti pavan hetu toma avatar. There's no one as merciful as him. But when he appealed, please deliver me, Mahaprabhu was angry. A sinful person, envious of pure devotees, I shall not deliver you. Rather, I shall have you bitten by these germs for millions of years. Shribashe, Korili, Tui, Bhavani Pujan, Koti Janma Hoveto, Rodaver Poton. You tried to disrespect Śrīvas Thakur by claiming these Bhavani Pujan. Koti Janma Hoveto, Rodaver Poton. Koti Janma. Hundreds of thousands of births you will suffer in hell. So that's what happens if you offend a devotee like Śrīvas Thakur, or offend Śrīvas Thakur. Anyway, eventually he was delivered. When, after taking sannyas, many years later, after taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu, Jagannath Puri, and then he came to North Bengal to deliver Rupa and Sanatan, and he came through Vidyanagar. He didn't come to Mayapur because the sannyasi cannot return to his village. He came to Vidyanagar. And then all of the Prashandis and the Smartas and the blasphemers who didn't understand who Satchidananda was when he was performing his pastimes in Navadip, they all went there and they were all delivered, including Gopal Chapal and Devananda Pandit, who also incidentally offended Srivas Thakur, Devananda Pandit. Although he didn't personally, he didn't protest when his students threw Srivas Thakur out of the Bhagavatam discussion. So eventually he was delivered, Gopal Chapal. And then there were so many pastimes. We mentioned Shatparaha Prakash performed in Shivasangan. The Srivas Thakur's mother-in-law was thrown out of the kirtan, right? I mean, for Western people we think, so what? But in Bengali culture, the Shashuri is mother-in-law is very respected. Mother-in-law, Shashuri, mother-in-law is very respected. So he threw her out. She was snuck into the kirtan. And then Srivas Thakur's son died. I mean, his son died, and he didn't even want to mention it to Mahaprabhu because it would disturb his dancing. When Mahaprabhu eventually heard that, why you didn't say, oh, we didn't want to disturb your kirtan, his heart melted. You have so much, I'm so important to you, so much love for me, that even your own son's death becomes of secondary importance to me dancing in kirtan. Now, sometimes the question is asked, Narad Muni, he was a renunciate of Krishna Lila. He was a brahmachari. Narad, a very strong brahmachari. Narad Muni. So he comes in Gaur Lila, it's like he degrades to a householder. How is this? It's perplexing. But there's a message here. There's a message. I mean, already you go back to householder life. He's already a brahmachari. What is this? There's a reason for that. It's not something random. So there's a lesson to be learned. So shall we spend a few minutes discussing this lesson? Okay. Mahaprabhu's, this is the principle of Mahaprabhu's. Grihe babone te take, ha gauranga bole dake. Grihe babone te take. You live in home, you live in the forest. Ha gauranga bole dake. Call out the name of Gauranga. Narottama mage tarashanga. Narottam desires to associate with that devotee who's chanting the name of Gauranga, whether he's at home or whether he's in the forest. It's not important. It's not a consideration in Mahaprabhu Sankirtan movement whether one is a house. Mahaprabhu married twice. Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Thakur, many wives. Srivas Thakur, they're all householders. Because this is because the Sankirtan is so powerful. The Sankirtan is so powerful. Even to Kumar Brahman, no, you don't come. He said, I want to come with you. No, you don't come with me. Jari dekha tarika Krishna upadesh, amara guru ho, tare desh, you stay here, you preach. And then punarapi etai pave mo shanga, toma bishoy taranga, body benab. You will not, if you do that, you will not be entangled in household life. The Bishai Taranga will not, the household environment will not contaminate you if you follow my instruction. Punarapi eitai pabe mo shanga. And in addition, you always have my association, the Grihastha who preaches Krishna consciousness at home. And these great exalted associates, even they left the renounced order and entered householder life in order to demonstrate this principle. Of course, Malini, Srivas Thakur's wife, she's a Ambika, an eternal associate of Sri Radhika in Braj, and his family members. So one day, Prabhu bole, Tumi deki katao nao jao, ki mate ku Kimate ba kulaibo ke mate kula. Mahaprabhu said to Srivas Thakur, you don't go anywhere. Let's see, you don't go to work. You don't go to the office. You don't even worry about maintaining your house. How is this possible? And Srivas Thakur said, well, I'm not interested. I'm interested in worshipping you, doing Sankirtan. I'm not interested in... And then Mahaprabhu said to him, then you should take sannyas. Prabhu bole, tobe tumi koro ho sannyas. He said, you take sannyas. And Srivas Thakur didn't agree. Even being requested to take sannyasi, no. I'll stay in householder life. Narad. It was interesting. Taha na paribo mui bolen Srivas. I'm not able to do that. Taha na paribo mui bolen Srivas. I'm not able to do that. And no further explanation of why, but he says, I'm not able to take sannyas. And then Mahaprabhu said, well, these days, alms do not come of their own accord. You have to make some endeavor. We can relate to that. It's not that you can just sit there and it will come. You have to make some endeavor. Mahaprabhu said that. You have to make some endeavor to get income. You're a householder. So if nothing comes, what will you do? You're not making an endeavor and nothing comes, what will you do? Mahaprabhu asked Srivas. Srivas bolen, hate tin dali dia, ek dui tin, ei kohilun bangia. Srivas says that 1, 2, 3, he claps his hands. 1, 2, 3, claps his hands like that. Prabhu bole, ek dui tin jaigi. What is this? 1, 2, 3. What is this hand clapping? 1, 2, 3. Lucky arta iha bole, keno tali dila. Why are you clapping in that way? Explain to me. This is my firm conviction, Srivas Thakur said that if I do not receive food for 3 days, 1, 2, 3, if I do not, 3 meals, I will tie a pot around my neck and drown in the Ganga. In other words, he's saying that he's saying that you have to provide for me. You have to provide for me. Just like in ISKCON, I mean, 3 meals, you can't, it's not really possible to miss on 3 meals. Except maybe one day, maybe Janmashtami. But it's not possible. Okay, morning, half day fast, yes. Even, there's even, we, Nishinga Chaturdasi Gorpanima, you miss 2 meals, breakfast, lunch. But if the 3 meals is not possible, devotees will not allow. You're not there for breakfast, you're not there for lunch, they will come to you. But what's wrong? In ISKCON, you cannot avoid eating. It's not possible. The devotees will come chasing after you. Why are you not taking prasadam? Yeah. That's the blessing of Srivas Thakur. So he said that. So Srivas said that I know that you will not allow me to starve. You will not. I know. So therefore, no, I'm not worried about it. And Mahaprabhu was very happy. He was very satisfied hearing Srivas respond in that way. And he said, Jodi kadachit loki, oh bika kore. For some reason, even if Loki Devi has to go begging, even if Lakshmi Devi has to go begging, I mean, how could that happen? Kadachit, if that were to happen, tatapi daridra nahibe tor gore. But even if that were to happen, still, there would never be any poverty in your home. In other words, even Lakshmi could run out of funds, but you will never experience poverty. Have you not forgotten what I said in Bhagavad Gita? Mahaprabhu says to Srivas, Anannashchintayantamam yejana paryupashate tesham nitta abhijuktanam jogakshemam bahamyaham. The nitta abhijukta, those who are always nitta abhijukta, constantly connected and engaged in pleasing me and serving me. Yogakshemam bahamyaham. I personally provide everything they require. More Sudarshan Chakra, Rake more Dash. More Sudarshan Chakra, Rake more. My Sudarshan Chakra protects my devotees. Mahapralaye, oh Jar Nahika Binash. Mahapralayo, even in there's a complete devastation. Jar Nahika Binash, still my devotee will not be annihilated. Oh Srivas, you just sit happily at home and everything will come. Ram Pandit there Daki Shri Gaura Sundor Prabhu Bale Shuno Ram Amar Uttor. He called the younger brother of Shivas Thakur, Shuno Prabhu Bale Amar Uttor. You listen to my instruction to you. Jeshtabai Shivashe Tumi Sharvatai Shevive Ishar Buddhe Amar Aggai. I've given you the order. You always serve your elder brother. Mahaprabhu told Sri Ram. Shuniya Prabhu Vakya Shiva Sri Ram. Anta nahi ananda hoilo punnakai. Sri Ram was so enlivened to hear that instruction from the Lord. Ki kohibe shibashe udar charitra chibubana hoy jar shmara pavitra. What can I say? Ki kohibe shibashe udar charitra. How can I describe the exalted character of Shivas Thakur? Tribuban hoy jar shmaran pavitra. Just by remembering him, the three worlds become purified. So today we have remembered some of the exalted qualities and pastimes of Shivas Thakur on his auspicious disappearance day. After Gaudhari left Navadip and took sannyas and remained in Jagannath Puri, Shivas Thakur was unable to remain in Navadip. It was too painful for him to remain in Navadip without seeing Mahaprabhu and performing pastimes with him. So he moved to, Kumara Hata. And Mahaprabhu visited him there when he was journeying from Jagannath Puri. And of course every year, along with all of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Gan, Shivas Thakur journeyed to Jagannath Puri and associated with Sri Sachinandan in Nilachal Dham for the Jagannath Rath Yatra Anushthan. Around this time they would arrive in Jagannath Puri, just after Snan Yatra. And they would remain 4 months every year. Shivas Thakur Shubhati Rubhav Titi Mahamahotsav ki Shamaveta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Shira Prabhupada ki Shishani Dai Gaud Shita Nata Pramanande Hari Hari.